So after you've done the notes for day 3 in unit 4, you're going to have a practice worksheet to work on, which is this one. And I just created it because I knew that on your exam that you're going to have next week that you'll have to be able to do this. So I thought we would practice with just a few examples of each one. So I'll do number 1 on the front, and 1 is like 2 and 3. And then I will do number 4 on the back, and that's the same thing like 5 and 6. Okay, so number 1. So number 1, we find h, and our goal is to write the rule from how to get to h double prime. So here's h prime, here's double prime. So how do I get there? And because the direction says that it is a glide reflection, I know that I have to glide, which is translate, and then I have to reflect second. So when I write it, I actually write it the opposite direction. So 1, I translate, and 2, I reflect. Okay? But when I write it here, I reflect first, and then I translate. And then I have to write down what am I actually reflecting and translating. I'm reflecting and translating figure h. Okay? Maybe we need to move this over just a little bit. Alright, so from h to h prime, we have to figure out our glide, our translation. So we want to go x, how many over, and how many down. So I'm going to pick this corner, and it's the same corner on this image. So how did I get there? Well, I went over 3, and I went down 6. So that would be positive 3 to the right, and then I went down 6, so negative 6. Okay? And then for my reflection, if I know that I have to reflect second, if I think about it, this point ends up being this point if this was folded over. Reflected. So in what case? What's the halfway point between here and here? Well, it has to be the y-axis. So I would just put down that I reflected over the y-axis. Okay? So that is a glide reflection. 2 and 3 are both glide reflections. Okay? Remember, like on this one, it looks like it's going to have to reflect onto itself. So you're probably end up going to have this as your line of reflection, which is x equals negative 1. Okay. All right. Number 4, it says describe the composition. So when it says composition, we can have rotation, reflection, translation. We could have any of those 3 things. Okay. So glide reflection has to be translation, reflection. Composition can be any of those 3. Okay, so from h to h prime, we've got to figure out what we did to get there. So from h to h prime, it looks like for here, the figure looks exactly the same here, so it's not reflected, and it just was moved. So let's go with translation was done first, and then from here to here, obviously that was not reflected. It wasn't moved, like as in a glide, but it had to have been rotated. Okay, so that would be a small r for rotation. Alright, so now from h to h prime, let's pick a point. Okay, actually I'm going to pick a different point. I'm going to pick this one here. And I got to figure out how to get here. So I'll go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So left is negative. And then I went down negative 1. So negative 7, negative 1. And then if I look at this point and I rotate this around, I land here. So you gotta visualize, like if I took this and I moved it around, it would land that this point matches this point. Okay? And so I don't know if you remember, I don't know if it was in the notes. But no, it wasn't in your guys' day 3 notes. But okay, I wanted to show you that if I go from the origin to this point, and then I go from the origin to this point, I can figure out my angle of rotation. So from here to here, if that's a straight line, that means I went 180 degrees. Okay, so down here we put 180 degrees, and they rotated about the origin. Okay, so when I write it as a composition, remember, the first thing that you actually do is the second thing that you write. So the second thing that you do is the first thing you write. So I rotated 180 degrees about the origin. We do our little circle there for composition, and then translate -7, -1. And what did we actually move? We moved H. Okay, now I will tell you that when you do 5 and 6 and you get to the rotating part, both of these should be 90, just so you know. And so when you are working them out, you should be able to get that right angle when you create your like my red line here, okay, that I drew in. Okay, I hope this helps you guys. Once you have this done, turn it into the tray or on the folder on my desk, and then you'll do your homework. Thanks, guys. Bye.